Today we're going to tackle the movements that most people say are their least favorite in the form: the kicks and snake creeps, pheasant stands. And they're probably the least favorite because they are more difficult to do physically. But if we work on them and think about the underlying principles, how those can help with those movements, it will actually help you move with more grace and ease, not only in the form, but in real life as well. These movements have the potential, if you understand them and how to apply those principles, they have the potential to help you be more balanced in your everyday life and to help you be more flexible and agile. So let's start with the kicks. The kicks, clearly you're on one foot as you do them. But right away, what I want you to think about are the principles of being rooted and grounded, understanding your columns, your substantial and insubstantial, but also being suspended from the crown of your head. So let's think about first, allow your body to be suspended from the crown of your head. Allow your body to just kind of relax into the ground. And now think about filling this column completely from the top of your head all the way down through your feet. Rooted and grounded columns. Substantial and insubstantial. Let this leg be completely full and this leg be completely empty. Now, as you're suspended, think about your dantian being the ruler. That's a very interesting point when you think about kicks, because what I want you to do now is you're grounded and you have this leg completely insubstantial. Think about pulling that leg up from your dantian. You can, at this point, just lift onto your toe. Notice that I'm just lifting onto my toe. This leg stays completely insubstantial. There's no weight on it. And then you can bring it down. Or you can try lifting a little bit and down. But the thing you want to really focus on is lifting from here. You're suspended and yet you're rooted. This is the power that lifts that insubstantial leg into a kick. Now, if you have particular balance issues, it's really a great idea to have a chair, a countertop, whatever, that can be here to help you with your balance so that you can think about those underlying principles and start applying them and not be so concerned about falling. Think about being rooted and grounded. You have your hand on the chair, on the counter. That way you can practice being balanced and just lifting. And eventually you can try to lift your hand. If you practice without that chair, if you say, oh, no, I'm trying to work on my balance, I don't want to have a chair, I don't want to have a prop, and you're doing this the whole time, what you're doing is you're teaching your body to do this. You're not teaching it to be stable. So the prop is actually helping your body and your brain understand what you're trying to tell it when you're trying to teach it balance. So I'm going to put my prop away for a second. Now, one more thing with that kick, obviously we haven't even tried to kick yet. This supporting leg needs to be soft. It isn't locked. We never have locked joints in Tai Chi, but it's especially important when we're trying to be balanced. If we lock, that's actually really hard to remain balanced. You're blocking the flow of energy, you're blocking that flow of information from the ground up, which your body needs that to be balanced. So keep this substantial leg, the full leg, keep it slightly bent, just soft. That's what I like to call it. It's not actually bent, it's soft, not locked. So now let's add the kick to this. Think about being suspended, think about being rooted and grounded. This leg is completely full, this leg is empty. You're going to lift from the dantian, and then you're going to extend and bring it back down. Now let all the water flow into this leg. This one now becomes the substantial leg. This one is insubstantial. Lift from the dantian, and now kick. One of our students, Gloria, asked in an email leading up to this, I have wobbly ankles. So Gloria, what I want you to really think about is that dantian, that center of your body being in control. Allow the ankles to just be part of that rooted and grounded column. This is your power. You're not trying to support yourself from your ankles. That's not what you're doing. You're supporting yourself from your dantian, and you're able to kick. Again, practice that with a chair or a counter, and that's going to actually strengthen those ankles along the way, and they'll become less wobbly. They will become more reliable because they know that you're really focusing here to keep yourself balanced. So everything with the kicks is all about that substantial and insubstantial columns, being rooted and grounded, focusing on the dantian. When we add that box the ears, moving from the dantian takes on a new meaning. So in the form, when we kick, smash, and box the ears, we're using our right leg to kick, smash. We have to lower that center of gravity by moving from the dantian to let the heel touch first, and then we move from the dantian to box the ears so that we're not falling forward, right? Kick, smash, and box the ears is not what we want to be doing. If we think about moving from the dantian, lower your center of gravity so your heel can touch, and then move from here to box the ears. So everything we've said about the kicks, kick, smash, and box the ears applies to your pheasant stands as well, right? You're standing on one leg. This substantial leg needs to be slightly bent. You need to be rooted and grounded. Your head is suspended from the ceiling. You are using your dantian to lift into that pheasant stance. So everything we've said about kicks applies to your pheasant stance. But of course, you have to get into pheasant stands from snake creeps. The one thing I want you to think about with snake creeps is how low you go is not all that important. I know you see lots of people on YouTube that go very low. They're very flexible. They've been doing this for years. That doesn't mean that you need to go that low. You need to worry about your own hips, your own knees. Applying the principles is what you need to think about with your snake creeps. So let's think about the mechanics of doing your snake creeps. You're going to form a bird's beak on the right. Your column is intact here on the right. This is your substantial side. Your left is insubstantial because you're going to step out with that leg. The temptation, because you step out with that, is to transfer your weight to that left. Don't do that. When you step out, Leave your left leg insubstantial. Now you're going to draw a clockwise circle and you're just going to turn your body. Rotation, moving from the dantian. So if you think about snake creeps, rotate from the dantian, leave that left hand low, open up that right hand, bringing your weight onto that left, and now let that right leg become empty so it can come into your pheasant stance. Your substantial and insubstantial changes are huge throughout this whole thing. With snake creeps, notice when I'm just thinking about the mechanics, I'm thinking about my underlying principles, thinking about my rotation, moving from the dantian, substantial and insubstantial, allowing this leg to be lifted from the dantian. I'm not even bending low at all. I'm not even trying to go low at all yet, because I have to practice those underlying principles first. When someone tries to do snake creeps and they want to emulate, they want to be low, right? This is usually what happens, is they hinge and they think they're going low. But that's breaking your columns, that's making you be very unstable, unbalanced. That's not how the snake is supposed to be. Don't try to go low by hinging and bringing your hand down to the floor. As you progress in your snake creeps, and you learn as you turn, if you think, I can start to go a little lower, you're actually keeping your weight on this right side, allowing that left leg to become empty before you turn and come into your pheasant stance. You want to keep your columns, keep your shoulders in harmony with your hips as you rotate and come into that pheasant stance. One of my students had a bad habit of putting her weight onto that outside leg, and she's like, Diane, I can't slide my foot like you do. And it was very obvious. I'm like, you can't slide your foot unless it's empty and you maintain this column here. Then you can get low, then you can start to turn. And when you start to get low like this, this is when you use that ball of energy to pull yourself forward and come into your pheasant stance. That ball of energy is actually a big part of helping you get lower and pulling your dantian over this base of support to come easily into your pheasant stance. One of the things that you can do to increase your flexibility with your snake creeps, I'm going to turn this direction here, have a chair like this, bring your legs wide, and now just bend side to side and see how low your body allows you to go. Think about staying on one side for just a little bit and then bending and come to the other side, and then bending and come to the other side. Practice just that helps your body understand how to stay upright in that movement and allow your body to flow into that lower stance. But don't force it. Practice it. Think about little improvements, little steps at a time. You start with a higher motion. You start by just understanding how to turn, how to bring your weight over that front leg to come into your pheasant stance. That's a beautiful pheasant stance. Don't worry about going low until you're confident with those underlying principles, and then you can start to test your body and see if you can get a little bit lower each time. Your flexibility improvements are minuscule, but little by little they start to add up. And maybe in February of 2024, you can say, whoa, wait a minute, I can do snake creeps much lower than I could in 2023. That's the kind of improvement, if you work on your snake creeps, that can happen. But just know that it takes time. So thinking about the flow of those movements in the form, the kicks and your snake creeps, pheasant stance. I missed one thing on snake creeps, just a second. When you step out with your snake creeps, you're not putting weight on that left, but you're also not stepping straight out. You're stepping a little bit behind so that when you turn, you have a nice stance, solid, to come into your pheasant stance. So if I'm facing this direction, I don't step straight towards the camera. I step a little bit behind towards the camera, but a little bit behind my body, so that when I turn, then I'm in a much better stance. So let's put those movements together in the flow of the form, but let's talk about the mechanics of that flow. And remember, your underlying principles need to be really forefront. Substantial and insubstantial changes are going to be the biggest one to help you bring these movements into an easy flow. So let's start with that second single whip right after you've done your wave hands like clouds. You step up your insubstantial change, your substantial and insubstantial, step up into your high pat on horse. You change your weight to the right, step out with your left, then bring in your weight to the right, bring it back to the left. Now you're going to do kick, smash, and box the ears. Think about what we said. Let yourself be suspended, yet rooted. This substantial leg is slightly bent. This one becomes totally empty. You lift from the dantian. Kick, smash, lower your center of gravity, moving from the dantian, box the ears. Your weight is slightly forward on this right leg now. The next move is to turn over your left shoulder. You're going to bring your weight a little bit to the left as you're turning, so that allows your feet to be fluid. But now as you're oriented in the direction you want to go, this right leg is now the substantial leg. Your left leg is the insubstantial leg. Lift and kick. The next move is snake creeps. You can touch that left foot down. After you've done a kick, you can center step so that you can kind of reset your balance if you need to. But if you don't have to reset your balance, you've just done this left kick, you can form your bird's beak, step out with your left leg. Remember, it remains insubstantial. Using your rotation, turning from the dantian, bring your weight over this substantial leg. Now lift this insubstantial leg into your pheasant stance. Now to turn, because the next one is snake creeps again, set this right foot down, but don't put a lot of weight on it, just a little, and just do a quarter turn. The weight stays on that left leg. You were just in pheasant stance. Weight is on this left leg. Quarter turn. Form that bird's beak. Now you're going to step out with the right. Remember, a little bit behind. No weight on that leg yet. Do your counterclockwise circle. Turn, leaving that right hand in front. Bring your weight over that right leg and come into your pheasant stance. So like I said, your substantial and insubstantial changes are huge as you go through that turn with the kicks and with snake creeps, pheasant stance. Know that there are different names for different movements with different instructors, right? Snake creeps could be the snake creeps down through the grass. Pheasant stands can be the golden rooster stands on one leg. Doesn't matter the name, it's the movement and the applying of those underlying principles. So let's do that sequence again. Starting from your second single whip as you step out into after your wave hands like clouds. Orienting your body this direction, high pat on horse, bringing your weight to the right, step out left. Using your weight transfer, bring your weight to the right. Now let all the weight come to the left. Lift that right leg. Using your dantian, kick, smash, lower that center of gravity. Box the ears, keeping your shoulders in harmony with your hips. Then as you turn, bring your weight a little bit to the left, then bring it back to the right. Lift this left leg from your dantian. Form your bird's beak, step out with your left, lowering your body, turn from the dantian. If you've gone low, you can use this ball of energy here to help you come into your pheasant stance. Tap that right toe, do a quarter turn, forming your bird's beak on the left. Step out, snake creeps, bringing your weight over that base of support, your right leg, and come into pheasant stance. Using that ball of energy as you get lower is very helpful. When you're just beginning to learn pheasant stands from snake creeps, it's actually easier to step out, turn, leave that hand low, open this hand and come into your pheasant stance. Don't worry about the ball of energy when you're just learning snake creeps. But as you start to get lower, that's when you can use it to help you bring your dantian over your base of support, bringing your energy forward to naturally come into your pheasant stance. They're difficult moves, but if you work on what's difficult, it actually becomes easier.